in our schools. The board has expressed concerns over the statistically remote possibility of an armed intruder threatening our children. Yet a majority of this board appears blind to everyday risks to students which are magnified in a larger school building. All too many children experience bullying and aggression, sometimes of a sexual nature. As a former high school teacher, Mr. Steve, you especially should know this. Smaller schools in our community can better provide a safe environment for our children. Let's keep our neighborhood schools. Board members, be wary of what you hitch your wagon to. It ain't a star. We will be ready for whatever you do tonight, and we will fight. Now to the band concert.
Good evening. Cooking numbers. In the financial world, it is a fraudulent activity performed in order to falsify financial statements. A frequent practice of lying and cheating for one's own personal gain. This, needless to say, is illegal. The same can and should be said for cooking numbers on a capacity limit to get approval for a plan to move forward. Previous numbers were far too high for traffic flow in an area that is already troublesome. You are expected to meet with PennDOT later this week to present those new lower capacity numbers because last Friday, unbeknownst to some board members and the public, the President changed them from previously submitted numbers and announced it through the agenda. Why? Because he thinks he can. Very troublesome is also that the district has no established geographic plans as to which students from what areas will attend either school. It appears, however, that East Pike will be housing the majority of the economically disadvantaged students. This can possibly create a stigma of it being for the poor students. Growing up here, there was always talk by adults of certain areas, for lack of better terms, being the bad areas. Those kids, through no fault of their own, face problems when they enter the high school arena because, let's face it, adults are the biggest gossips and bullies, and it trickles down to the kids. Based on studies and research done by ProPublica and PA Public School Performance Profile, East Pike is above both state and district averages for the percentage of students eligible to receive free or reduced price lunches. On average, 34% of students in PA qualify for these, while East Pike is at 48. Analysis found that all too often states and schools provide poor students fewer educational programs like advanced placement. Studies have linked participation in these programs with better outcomes in life. These analyses use free and reduced lunch to estimate poverty at schools. Their findings are based on the most comprehensive set of access to advanced special classes and programs in U.S. public schools known as Civil Rights Data Set, released by the U.S. Department of Education for Civil Rights. This board's bullying tactics to get what you want will likely cause further disadvantage and increase in the percentage of students being stigmatized and overlooked. But who cares as long as you get what you want, right? So is it about the kids? Doesn't appear so. The bigger the school means more fall through the cracks. And this is nothing short of discrimination. It is said you can only get as much power as you take. You've taken enough. The rift you have caused in this community will likely be felt for years to come and for future boards. For this reason, and for your other shenanigans like unprovoked volatile attacks outside the boardroom, once again, Doug Steve, please resign immediately.
No.
Good job.
During the last school board meeting, the board president said emphatically, I am for the safety of our kids. I am now left guessing whether this statement was only for when we talk of guns and armed security. It doesn't seem to hold true when we talk of school bus traffic safety. The question asked should not be, what's the number of kids we can have in this building so we can have this approved? The question should be, to assure the safety of our children, it is in our best interest to have a turn lane. It seems the magic number here is a student occupancy capacity limit of 897, not 898. Add one more child and we need a turning lane. Who will take responsibility for the the 897 children in a serious accident occurs that could have been prevented with the construction of the turning lane. School board members, as well as administrators and teachers, are responsible for the safety of our children. The outcome of this vote on this motion tonight will fall in the lap of every school board member here. Will you, as in the past, follow the leader and vote to allow the fudging of numbers in order to have the permit granted? I urge you to vote no and demand our children's travel be as safe as possibly we can make it. Saying I am for safety of our children and manipulating student capacity to meet the requirements is more than irresponsible. It is producing the possibility of a serious accident, not once, but twice a day for 897 elementary age children. Who does this? Not us. Not here in Indiana. We don't operate this way. Do the right thing.
I made copies for the board of the letter that we talked about at the meeting, so I'll just send it up to the public there. My name is Cindy Boyer, and I'm from Shalata. My topic of concern with the mega school project is its potential disruption of archaeological evidence that the site may contain. I spoke with Dr. Ben Ford this morning, and he agreed to let me speak on this matter as he has another commitment. Dr. Ford's concern is for any evidence that may disrupt the building by building the new school near the creek area. He submitted additional information to the State Historic Preservation Office, and because plans that place gravel paths, access points, laydown, and soil stockpile are within the above-mentioned areas. McKissick told me at the earlier meeting that they would not be using that area, and if that is so, they need to send a letter to the State Historic Preservation Office stating that and making sure that we do not interrupt anything that may be there that could be of historic significance. It's also my concern because over much of the country, history is being changed to meet the convenience of a few. History should be conserved for us and for those who come after us. We can learn so much from archaeological finds concerning our past. If disturbed or damaged, the evidence is lost forever. Dr. Ford told me that heavy equipment is going to be going over those areas again and again and would ruin any finds that may be at the site. Don't be in such a hurry to go forward that you don't stop and preserve what may be there that we can learn from. Of all groups, the school district committed to the education of our children and grandchildren should not take this subject lightly. Concerning the advanced site work bid package, an abbreviated bid time was discussed at the earlier meeting. I believe you should take appropriate time for the process to be completed so that we can get the best bids. At the February 13th board meeting, a motion introduced by Walter Schroeder and amended by John Barber was approved, not to sign or execute any construction contracts until all needed permits for a new Ben Franklin building and a renovated East Pike were physically in hand. And the district will not enter into further debt through bond funding until it has accepted construction bids and committed the district to building a new school or to making renovations. I believe that motion must be rescinded according to Robert's Rule of Order, Section 25, before any motion to solicit bids for an advanced bid package or proposals for a construction trailer are made. As for a construction trailer to not be part of the bid specified for the project, all project money should be contained in one bid. This deception only makes it look like the project will be less expensive. The cost will still be paid, but from a different pot. Thank you for your
Good evening. We feel compelled to come again tonight to advocate for children and academics. Despite recent teacher cuts, last week's approval of a 5-year teacher contract with almost 2% annual raises, $32 million new school project and spending motions at almost every board meeting threatens to permanently degrade Indiana's high-performing schools. The board's Super PAC 5 continues to ignore the community's majority against new debt and spending and disrespect the previous school board's 2013 investment of $14.9 million on ESCO energy-saving renovations that included 3 elementary schools you now plan to tear down, replace, or sell. Selling Eisenhower for small sums to private charter entities will allow others to reap the remainder of the $5.7 million guaranteed over the remaining 15 years. Good stewards of taxpayers' dollars would keep our schools a while longer, pay off debt, and do more thorough research to build a school for the future. On April 10th, board members and administration failed to acknowledge reading a 94-page Constellation report from January showing utility savings in excess of $653,000 for years 1 and 2, over $33,000 more dollars than what was projected in savings. This unread report cost the taxpayers approximately $25,000 annually. Tonight is the first official meeting on new architectural plans differing from the last ones in November of 2016 previously sent to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, White Township, and PennDOT. Tonight's new plans are generating new meetings, questions, concerns with White Township, PennDOT, and the community that must be addressed. Board previously voted not to move forward until permits are issued, so there should not be any motions related to this project tonight. No permits have been issued. Board members should dismiss politically motivated suggestions and motions asking to misappropriate money for what is clearly a project-related expense, like a construction trailer, as an item separate from the bid, that will make the school project appear less expensive. It's rumored a trailer could cost outrageously $50,000 to $100,000. Each board member is responsible for ensuring project costs and numbers of students are accurately reported. Motion capping new Ben Franklin student capacity at 897 opens up even more questions with student placement, new boundaries resulting in student assignments with unequal number of students, 900 in one school and a max of 475 in another. We hope the community will have input in working with the board to ensure both schools offer equal educational opportunities beyond tangible school characteristics such as proportionate distribution of students taking into consider socioeconomic factors. Thank you.
Mark Craig. Larry McCoy. Barb Barker.
I have to speak really fast, so pay attention. Let's talk about PlanCon F document that you are considering. This document is inaccurate and incomplete. On page 1, the line is marked NA on board's response to PlanCon E. This needs to be clarified. I really hope NA means not available versus this does not apply to you. Because burdening the district with an extra $5 million more dollars when you are denied PlanCon funds for your inaccurate and incomplete documentation is beyond irresponsible. Also on page 1, the box is checked for written certification from County Planning Agency of the project's conformance with applicable comprehensive plan. This is absolutely inaccurate. Why is this box checked? The Indiana County Office of Planning and Development on March 3rd sent the district a lengthy document that states that your project is inconsistent with the Indiana County Comprehensive Plan. On page 2, asbestos abatement and food service boxes are not checked as prime contracts. Although they were marked as prime contracts in the amended PlanCon E that was sent to the state earlier in the year. You may have not noticed since you voted to send that document to the state without ever reading it. Also on page 2, where marked on this page. The public has only been provided structural drawings. On page 3, A, B, C, D, your enrollment numbers have changed since 2012 and 2015. Should the PDE not have the most current and accurate figures? Also on page 3, did Eisenhower go? Eisenhower Elementary is not listed as one of your elementary schools. Last I checked, a large number of bright and talented 4th and 5th graders attended there. On page 4, there's a table in the kindergarten room size comparing the table of figures to the drawings. Also on page 4, the pre-K lists 0 occupancy. Are you eliminating this program? On page 5, the line is blank as to how many kids the cafeteria can seat. Has this issue not yet been resolved? On page 6, there's another typo for a special education class size between the drawings and the tables. On page 7 and throughout the document, there are 3 different square footage sizes listed in this proposed building. Which one is correct? On page 11 and 12, there are conflicting capacity figures. In one location, student capacity is listed as 1,125. In another location, student capacity is listed as 1,040. This affects subsequent calculations within the document. Speaking of capacity, tonight there are 2 conflicting motions on your agenda. The motions include sending PennDOT an occupancy figure that is different than the documentation that is going to be sent to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. So I ask, which state agency are you going to send false information to? Thank you.
We have just heard some significant points being made, and I urge the board to listen carefully to the community voice. Last week, after the article in the Indiana Gazette regarding Lycoming County, I mentioned that I did not know very much about that area and how it compared to our situation here, the internet. It is such a wonderful tool to use to discover all kinds of things. But do you know what is even better than the internet? Getting in your car and driving to Montoursville and having coffee with Ronald Snell, the president of their school board, and fellow board members Denise John and Bill McCleary over the phone. We spent about 4 hours, and they are really incredible people. In their school district, their school board was so devious that they had their Act 34 on February the 24th, 2015, after the time allotted for submission of 5 candidates ran as common sense candidates and won a write-in campaign for their private. Amazing, the power of the vote. Ron and Denise shared their story and their personal experience and expertise. They gave me advice and counsel. I learned so much from them and feel confident that we do not have to repeat their mistakes. The Lycoming County decision was a local decision. It was not a PA Supreme Court decision. According to Mr. McCleary, the legacy of that previous board that approved the building project is one of bankruptcy and a community that is so fractured that he does not feel that it will heal. Make no mistake, that will be your legacy. And we will remind the community every time an academic program is cut, an athletic program is cut, every time a teacher is cut, that you were responsible for those changes. These cuts will have to be made to pay for the new school building. That will be your legacy. So, we in this community are ready. We have done our research. We have done our homework. We are united, and we are taking this very seriously. Democracy is hard work. I do not take my right to vote lightly. And I hope all of you in the community will exercise your democratic power and come out to vote tomorrow. We will not be led to believe that this project is a done deal. We expect this board to respect the results of tomorrow's election. You, the majority on the school board, have forced us in the community to make a difficult decision. We now have a lawyer. We as a community have the election if the majority on this board proceed with any motion that advances this project, puts this project out for bids, or ties the hands of future boards, and believe that you can disregard the results of this election. Expect that we will be seeking
Okay, your time is up, Mrs.
in the common
Bard.
Okay, we'll talk about that too. About, one through Hill High School. And one thing, the judge, he denied to make a motion on, a decision on that. He did not want to be a super school board. So he denied, that's how they won. I never said in the paper about the Supreme Court. Saying, in one state Supreme Court cases, the justice held that the discretion of the school authorities will be interfered with only when there is a clear abuse of it and the burden is a heavy one. Supreme Court put forth a heavy burden of proof that for courts to intercede in the decision of making school board decisions. How much of a heavy burden of proof do you guys want? I'll give you a couple. People losing their home. The school district cannot afford this right now because they're going to be going in debt. How much more are we going to go? We keep changing the numbers. It's numbers game now. Bump, 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 bump. If you can't get it right and have a plan, the school, in my opinion, is too small. 25 students? I don't know. I think it's time we take this off and get rid of this school and start working on education. Our state representative, Paul mentioned, Republican from Montgomery County, noted that 19 cents of every dollar that comes into the school goes to the classroom. That is pathetic. The teachers are eating up out the budget. I know you have special interest, that takes up 25%. Where's all the learning? Aren't we smart? Schools are for learning. I know we got to pay for buildings and that, but education is going to actually kill Pennsylvania. Just like it's killing the rest of the United States. And everybody's trying to make a plan. They're switching. They're thinking of other ways of funding. Pensions are going crazy. What are we going to do? I say let's stop this school project. And some of the stuff Mr. McKissick said, I can almost guarantee those bids are out in Macero's back pocket right here, right now. Guaranteed that's how we're going to get all your bids done within 14 days.
Thank you for letting us to speak tonight. I'm here tonight because I care about our community, I care about our kids' education, and I care about the well-being of Indiana County. It's clear that the course that the board is on is wrong whenever there's near opposition to the project. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. First number is 3. That's the number of county commissioners who opposed the project. County Commissioner Mike Baker, Commissioner Sheree Hess, and Commissioner Rob Roddick have signed a resolution against the project. Next number is 2. That's the number of how many of our representatives in the General Assembly opposed the project. That's Don White and Dave Reed who both spoke against it. Next number is 12. That's the number of Indiana Borough Council members who opposed the project. Kitty Gooden, Dr. Peter Brown, former State Representative Sarah Steelman, Dawn Lancaster, Gerald Smith, Dr. Ben Ford, James Smith, candidate for Reporter Beats, Bill Boogers, Dick Farrell, Casey Newell, Lisa Kuznetsky, and Dave Cooper are all unanimously against the project. Shawalker Borough, that number is 6. Six council members of Shawalker Borough had opposed the project. Armstrong Township Supervisors, 5 have opposed the project. 5 White Township Supervisors, and let's take a look at the total number is 36-0. When 36 people of your elected officials, that's the unanimous number of elected officials in the district opposed the project, you should be concerned that the course you're on is wrong. Let's take a look at another number 1 and number 2. Number 1 and number 2 reflect the academic performance of Isaac Howard and Horace Mann, the top 2 performance elementary schools in the state in their category. Those are the 2 that you're proposing to close. Another number is 122. That's how many supporters of your building project that we found across the district. 6 of those are sitting on the board. There's 6 spouses of those on the board. Opposed to 100, in reference to 122, in contrast, 1,984. That's how many people opponents of the project we found. $32 million. That's the amount of money this is going to cost. $10 million of interest. Tomorrow's election day. There's 5 opponents of the project. Lowry, Harley, Kukrow, and Barker. 4 is the number of seats that are up for election. 13 hours is the amount of time that the polls are open on election day. We have a lot of people committed to go out and vote on the project. Let's take a quick poll in this room. If you're planning to vote for people that oppose this project, please stand up. I'd like everyone to repeat after me. I commit to vote tomorrow.
I commit to vote tomorrow.
Thank you for your time.
Speaking this evening as President of the Indiana Borough Council, I represent the unanimous sentiment of the Borough Council and the Mayor of Indiana. I don't really have anything to add to what I've said on previous occasions, but it bears repeating. The Borough of Indiana is deeply, deeply concerned for the future of our community if this project is carried out. Part of what makes Indiana a place where people want to live. Families focus on their schools as a place that they all have in common. Children think of their schools as a second home. Those who live close enough use them as a place to congregate and to play. A huge school in the suburbs is not part of a community. It is an institution to which children are bused or driven, and afterwards they are taken back to their communities. Even those children who live inside of the school cannot walk there to play. All the studies show that large elementary schools have a negative effect on the education of the children who go to them. The school board has offered no evidence to contradict that. Our current schools have been shown conclusively to work. Keep them. The school district is a government entity comparable to the municipalities included in it. The governing bodies of the 4 municipalities, like the school board, are all elected to represent the people who live within their borders. Those bodies have all made it abundantly clear that they do not want this project to proceed. Tomorrow the voters will express themselves. To ignore them would be to undermine the integrity of our democratic system. You may have the legal right to go ahead as if nothing has changed, but you do not have the moral right to do so.
Thank you again for allowing us to speak at these meetings, as it has proved very fruitful in uniting this uniting us around a common cause. In the recent Gazette article where the Montoursville High School case was touted as a precedent protecting this board to move ahead with its building project, despite the results of tomorrow's election. Mr. Steve is saying the solicitor with everything, no matter what happens in the election. Who is fine? You 5 are fine. We're not fine. This community is not fine. And that is the crux of the issue here, not the numbers that you may argue with Mr. Harley about. We keep coming to these meetings asking you why you're going forward when we find no solid argument academically or financially, and we have posed multiple sound arguments against it. We have demanded transparency and asked why you weren't listening. Well, things are very transparent now. It's not that you haven't been listening, you just don't care, because you are fine, and it doesn't matter that we aren't.
Not one of you has come forward and given a thorough explanation for why you believe in your heart of hearts that we need this new school. Something this unpopular demands that, but instead of logic, reason, or even impassioned belief as a way of explanation, you are fine to move forward simply because you can. This is about more than a traffic study and whether you're using 900 or 1,300 for the number of kids that would require a turning lane. It's not about a number, it's actually about those kids. You say, if PennDOT says that if we have 950 kids in the building, we would need a turning lane. We will tell PennDOT we don't have to have 950 kids there. We could have 900. We will work with PennDOT to say, what's the number of kids we can have in this building so we can have this approved? Who's playing with numbers here? Numbers of children, mind you. If you care about people, shouldn't the traffic considerations really be about the safety of kids and parents and other motorists, pedestrians, and cyclists using the intersection, and not what number will get your plan approved without having to put in a turning lane for safety's sake? As I said, things are quite transparent now.
Thank you very much. Man, I just want to say what he said and what he said and what she said and what she said. Really, I'm just listening to fact after fact after fact, and the thing I like about facts, especially true facts, is that they don't lie. And I think that we've been given a tremendous amount to think about. I think that happens at every meeting. Some of what's been touched on, moral obligation, the well-being, we've been thinking a lot about that. So much focus on building. And I think that we may be missing the point here. I get it. The concern about building is, as you said, the institutional aspect of it. We have a society of things have become very virtual. It's obvious that we've been losing the idea of community and gathering and getting together for quite some time now. And to put this, especially with what the plan is to put it where you're putting it. I mean, two main things are going on when it comes to the idea of building. And my concern is you're going to go through it. If you are going to go through it somehow, first of all, you're not spending enough money. Okay, like your $32 million is just way low. Because everything that's being done, as you were speaking about here, is how can we fit this in? How can we fit this in? How can we make this work? How can we keep it inside this budget? You're just not spending the kind of money you need to spend to get the excellence that we need to have for a long-term plan. Community is important. From this letter that I got in the mail, which thank you for sending me that, one of the questions, this went out, I guess in January, is that right? Does anybody remember? The one that had all the questions and answers. When was last month? Okay. All right. That's good. $5,000. All right. Thanks for sending it to me. A question was asked, the academic priorities listed do not include education. They talk about inputs and not outputs. The building project does not address how students will learn. The answer, several people have mentioned the importance of the district teachers in public comment and letters to the editor and the administration agrees. In some cases, a building gets in the way of education. Curriculum, what we teach, and how we teach is not expected to be different because of the building project. Well, of course you're not going to change the curriculum. That wasn't the question. The fact of the matter is that some cases they do get in the way. Is it going to happen here? Second question, one study on the school size was cited and dismissed, but there are hundreds of studies. Has any other evidence on school size been reviewed? The answer, the study provided the ad hoc committee and school board was readily available from PSBA. The administration was not charged with studying small versus large school. That doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea to do that study. Okay, so nobody made you do it. There are many arguments for small schools. Small schools within communities with sufficient staff to meet the needs of students would be ideal. But these two items are in competition with each other. Thank you for the extra time. Every community decides the number of schools they can support and afford. Thank you. perspective, and reading what I have read, including the governance environment sent by the superintendent, it occurs to me that primarily who were opposed to the project for a variety of reasons. So I reached back and reread the information sent by the superintendent, and I reread editions of the Gazette in search of the answers that basically were being asked by people at this podium tonight to you, the school board. And it seems as though what is missing is a coherent response about how the school project, the mega school, would result in qualitative elementary students. As was commented by Mr. Varner, the answer to that questions was rather technical, in some cases rather narrow, in some cases limited, and in some cases just didn't seem to point blank answer the question. So I would ask the board to consider before proceeding. If you cannot stand before the community and offer a coherent way in which the mega school and subsidiary projects qualitatively and quantitatively improves the education of our students, then I don't see that we really need to get mired in a lot of the technical details that were spelled out by the superintendent. I didn't even understand all the funding mechanisms and the terms that he used. However, absent a coherent response about improvement, the details of how many millions of dollars are spent for each portion of this, unless you're willing to have someone speak as a spokesman of the superintendent, I don't see how in good conscience or in fiscal or educational responsibility you can proceed as though there were no counter-arguments, or as though the counter-arguments, which seem to be more numerous and more coherent, can be better addressed. Thank you.
All right, guys. Okay, so I know we don't get a whole lot of time here, so we'll try and move this along as quickly as humanly possible. You know, I'm just going to talk to everybody that actually has an opinion in this room that matters. So, I know a lot of you guys are residents, you're local, you guys have been here for a while. There's probably a story that might ring a bell for some of you. There is a teacher that once worked for the Indiana School District that was forced to...
It's time for you to leave the building.
That's adorable. I would say that too if I was a child molester. So anyway, now.
Okay, right now, you're leaving the meeting, or we're adjourning and we're dismissing the meeting.
I can take my 3 minutes or we can have
I move to adjourn.
meeting.
I move to adjourn. Temporarily.
Your one chance is tomorrow. If I went outside right now and slaughtered an old woman, would you let me run a nursing home?
No.
Care for your parents? No? I didn't think so. So why is Doug Steve in this chair?
Until
Why? Why would we allow this to happen? Anyone? I have no idea how I have been so blind and so uninvolved in my own child's school that was allowed to happen. But it needs fixed, and tomorrow is your only opportunity. And we request your time.
Eleanor Horvath.
It's not about the size of classrooms, it's about the staff and individuals allowed.
Eleanor, what is your address?
1438 Philadelphia Street. It's not about the size of classrooms, it's about the staff and individuals allowed in schools on a daily basis, ensuring the children feel safe at all times, and educating the children to the best of their abilities so they can become critical thinkers and productive members of society. I actually come from a family of educators,
and none ever mentioned that classroom size or building design is an obstacle to overcome. One of the things they're greatly concerned about is curriculums that simply teach to standardized testing, and the pressures placed on students to pass unfair exams. The current board seems to be fixated on this money on a multi-million-dollar mega school building, and fails to look outside the box for creative solutions, innovative research, and effective solutions that will save us money. The board simply can take my money now because this issue resembles a question on the standardized test. Don't think too critically. There's only one answer, and it comes from those in power, which is what you're teaching the children. I guess hopeful Howard's bucket filling school outside and just fill the lanes and debt and standardized testing.
Terry Kerr.
Good evening, thank you for letting me speak again. Asking again to stop the project, it's not too late. You haven't awarded the project or advertised it yet. And for the following 5 reasons again, academics, I think, over and over, it's spoken and given evidence that larger schools are not conducive to better learning. Safety, there's over and over, people get up and talk about the traffic impact study issues and the safety of the people and the students going through the parking lots. Something I saw tonight on the virtual tour was the wall outside the school. Yes, you can put some railing up there and stuff, but that's not going to keep kids from climbing on it and pushing and sitting on it and stuff. Security seems to be an issue. There's windows throughout the building that can easily be broken even if the doors are locked. That's seen on the floor also. The site is not conducive at all to larger schools based on the traffic impact study, the playground, the parking, the queuing, numerous things have been spoken about. And then the economics of the community. It's been proven to you that the community is in dire straits, and it's not a good time for this school. It's not needed either, really. The longer I come to these meetings, the more I learn. The thing I learned at the committee meeting earlier, that the lower floor elevation of the new school is 12 to 13 feet lower than the existing school. For months we were told there was drainage problems, mold, possibly problems with the existing school. Why would anyone suggest that you go to school 12 to 13 feet lower on that same site? It boggles the mind that it's not based on engineering or architects. The process that you're going to vote on later to circumvent the traffic impact study process is not binding in the future to anyone. Future boards can vote to change that. That's going to be a tough sell this Thursday. Project cost, I've been talking for months that anytime you introduce alternates in the bids, squeezing the advertisement, you're asking for nothing but higher costs. Contractors hate having alternate items in their bid. When a contractor bids things, they put profit in certain items. Well, if they don't know if A is going to be chosen, or B is going to be chosen, or C is going to be chosen, they don't know which of those you're going to choose. And maybe you're going to choose the one that they have their profit margin in, maybe you're not. So what does that mean? All their items are going to be more expensive, so they're guaranteed profit. It's industry standard. Twice it's been discussed about you were going to talk to other school districts and see what they learned from that. There was a motion made on the floor, passed. I'm still waiting to hear the results of that.
Area school district and its bylaws. There are two. One is to focus on the education and learning of students. The other is to be responsible stewards of the taxpayers' money. I am concerned about this project for multiple reasons. There's no evidence to suggest that this new building will enhance student learning. In fact, the bulk of the research suggests the complete opposite about mega schools, especially in terms of senses of safety and community on the part of students. Rather, more than 200 studies have shown the only factor that can create student achievement is knowledgeable and skillful teachers. This project will also result in closing the 2 high-performing elementary schools in the district right now, Horace Mann and Eisenhower. This project will only further stress the budgets of the school district, which has already cut teaching positions and discontinued programs that facilitated student learning, citing budget issues. Much has been made of the $5 million from PlanCom. So I went back and looked at Doug Steen's interview from the Hawkeye in February of this year. He said, "People think we're rushing. That's because there's available money." It's a quote. He continued, quote, "With a $5 million reimbursement from PlanCon, we have a valuable opportunity to save money," which sounds great. But in fact, all that $5 million loss to the school system's finances from the 2012 school building regulations that are not cost of the project back at $32 million. That's all PlanCon does, as Doug Steve stated in the interview, is offset lost benefits. It is my belief that the evidence suggests that the stubborn pursuit of the mega elementary school, which would be one of the largest in the state, is an abandonment of the primary responsibilities of the implemented school to focus on the education and learning of students and to be responsible stewards of the taxpayers' money. This is also reinforced by the role of boards articulated by the Pennsylvania School Board Association to provide for effective education and to be effective stewards of the public resources. This project manages to fail on both counts. This is not about learning. It's not about being responsible with our money. It's about ego. I wholeheartedly agree with the conclusion reached by the editorial board of the Indiana Gazette. The decision that it appears the board is about to make clearly is not one that the majority of constituents want, and they're the ones who will have to pay for it. And it is the one that will be an anchor around the necks of the taxpayers of IASD for decades. Stop before it's too late. And I would argue an anchor around our economy as well. I won't thank the board for allowing public comment because it is required by law.
Thank you, Mr. Harley.
We've been here before. You've heard the comments before. You're charging ahead regardless of these comments. Tomorrow, we have a chance to have a referendum on the school building. I invite all your supporters to come out and vote. I invite all the public to come out and vote. This is important. This board will change its face tomorrow night. Okay. I can go on. Buildings and seeing for the first time in 3 months to see plans this week. Rooms that were at one point 850 are now 739. I don't know what you're doing. The building is going to be inadequate. We are a growing district on the west side of town. You're proposing to tell the state and handcuff every board member for the next 100 years that there will only be 897 citizens. On the other hand, you're telling PDE 1,600, 1,540. Who knows what the number is? Okay. Tomorrow we get the same. Tomorrow you have to pay cash.
I want to make a public comment on agenda items E, F, G, and H. Over the past year, the concerns of area residents with regard to the school building project seem to have fallen on deaf ears for most of you. Initially, residents were invited to take a tour of Mount Franklin, meet with the architect, and with some district parents receiving phone calls via the school's automated system. And on the school district website as of the afternoon of day 12. The PlanCon F document indicates that there will be a total FTE capacity of either 1050 or 1125 in the new Ben Franklin school proposed to be built. Given the square footage of the rooms and the PA code requirements for space per student, the capacity of the pre-K through 5 classrooms could actually be 11,038 students, not including special ed and gifted classrooms. Setting the occupancy limit to 897 will mean that out of the maximum possible capacity for students, the school district will choose not to use 20% of the available capacity. At a time when resources are limited, not using 20% of available space is fiscally irresponsible and will limit flexibility of use when there are population spikes, which are projected for this area according to a Center for Rural PA study. Do not tie the hands of the district by voting to reduce the capacity limit to 897. Also, do not vote for PlanCon F. The pre-K classroom numbers per the PA state code is 20 students. In PlanCon F, it says it's going to be 25. Also, for grades 1, 2, and 3, the code also requires 1 toilet and 1 sink for every 15 students of each gender. The floor plans only show 1 restroom with 1 toilet and 1 sink. How thought out is this plan? These are yet other examples of rushing this unneeded and unaffordable project. This is most definitely a project that this board could stop. To all attendees and concerned citizens, your voice will be heard tomorrow. Please vote and impact change.
Thank you. That young lady right back there, yeah, this is how democracy is supposed to work. I want to thank you for that comment, because 28 years of my adult life, I was not in democracy. I was in a very strict order, the military. I have a lot of comments, but it seems that this side of the room, a little bit over here, they're not listening. I got 1, 2, maybe 3 questions before my time is up. Question 1. Would you rather have a new building, or great academics?
Great academics.
Question number 2. Do you really think this is a done deal?
No.
Yes. And we're in the bottom of the 8th. All right? And they think they're going to bat. Well, I'm throwing strike balls, and I feel lucky. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation since September 6th, 2016, September 16th, 2016, when Con Plan A went in, or was commented or introduced by this board for a cost of $23 million. Now, 9 months later, 6 comp plans later, we still have a cost of $32 million, but in reality, it's more like $40, $45 million. Interest included. Also, the numbers in the comp plan are incorrect. The projected student populations, current projections, they don't match. And believe me, I've dealt with numbers the majority of my life. Yeah, 1 or 2, but when you're up by hundreds, something's wrong. Also, I think the problem, or the issue may be, is Eisenhower's not included. So I think this is a great misinformation plan, or is it the fog of contracting? I know one person in this room will have 95% of his money when he walks away and hands you the nice goggles and the blueprint. All right? Yep. Now, all I have to say is tomorrow, vote, vote, and vote.
Everybody.
ADHD who cannot focus very well. And I quote, "I am ADHD, I cannot focus, I cannot communicate with those around me, especially with hard of hearing." Now I have 4 people who cannot be here today, and they would like to be in part of it. I don't think it's effective, or why, and I worry about the possible outcomes of this building project. And hard of hearing people, deaf, need more than just note takers or a microphone carried up to the teacher. It's very embarrassing. Kids are actually watching them wherever they go, and it's not very helpful for them. I have this in my life, and I never really make a lot of friends. So I please suggest that we put kids with people who are hearing and can't hear with rooms that is not filled with about 7 kids to help them focus a lot. Disabilities must be given a top priority. In the cafeteria, I saw the plan. I did not like it. Those who have hard of hearing, who cannot hear cars coming towards them, I never got them. I think if we put all this money aside for those who need it, for those who need an elevator, interpreters, note takers, whatever they need. And there are people who have mental disabilities. So I think actually help them out.
I move that items E, F, G, and H be removed from the agenda. The motion was to remove items E, F, G, and H from the agenda.
Remove E, F, G, and H from the agenda. And discussion?
Steve, the purpose of the motion is for several reasons. Number one, the editorial. Number two, the previous motion that was passed, and some of these will violate. Number three, the outspoken and continued opposition in large numbers that we've seen here tonight. And number four, tomorrow's primary election.
The previous motion that was passed was not to award any bids. It had nothing to do with soliciting bids. It had nothing to do with setting a occupancy number. All it said is we would not award any bids until permits, and everything was from the township.
In part because of that, but as was explained this evening at the Buildings and Grounds meeting, there is a very distinct possibility that we follow the exact timeline as was presented, that will in fact go to contract, or that bid would be awarded prior to those things happening.
Roll call vote on eliminating E, F, G, and H from the agenda.
Mrs. Parker?
No.
Dr. Clark? Sylvia Martin? Yes. Mrs. Lieber? Yes. Mrs. Papadopoulos? No. Mr. Schroeder?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? No. Mr. Steve?
No.
Dr. Mussolini?
Yes, I have some discussion, Doug. Number one, I just absolutely cannot understand the logic of putting a future board by tying its hands into a precarious predicament and by limiting it to 900 students and forcing whatever additional students to come to East Pike.
I think that changing of these numbers amounts to this board's attempt to bully an independent board and also Moretti Township Planning Commission. I think we all have to work together, and harassing them and taking the board and bullying them into this position where they're using two different numbers is reckless, and it's in reference to the other public, and it's something that's been expressed tonight. So I would hope that this board would think twice before so easily casting their votes. To pull election hijinks the night before the election. We asked at the last meeting what the purpose of this meeting was, and you said, oh, it was for committee work. You didn't mention that you had planned to try to request vote tomorrow, which isn't going to work, by making people feel like there's no chance. That's very election. Thank you.
PlanCon is just a formula for reimbursement. It has nothing to do with capacity.
Or it's the most important thing you've ever heard of. Now it's just.
It's used to see the reimbursement you will get.
That's incorrect. There's planning documents.
You're definitely playing with the numbers.
How is he allowed to still be here?
Partial responsibility with the professionals working on the project for the motions that are on there, including this one. We are meeting with PennDOT this week in response to their concerns about the traffic issues and the traffic study. They have concerns about future board, future administration. If they put more students in the building, PennDOT does not get to come back 5 years later, 10 years later, 15, 20 years later to get another input on traffic concerns that they have. So, the discussion with the traffic study engineer, the architect, the engineer, the construction manager, and myself, discuss what do we need to take that meeting with PennDOT to try and alleviate their concerns. Similar to the process we use in meeting with the Wayne Township Planning Commission, what we need to do to alleviate their concerns. We brought items back to the board for you to consider that the access to the fire company, for example, not a code requirement. We supported doing that. That's what the fire chief recommended. And that's what the council wants. That's where that motion came from. This really follows that same path. Why 897? A little bit higher number. 897 was the number used in the submission by HRG traffic study. That's really where it came from. PennDOT would say it's 900. Make it 900. They said it could be 925, which is what I calculated as the functional capacity of the school based on the number of classrooms or class size guidelines. This doesn't limit the enrollment of that building 897 for its 150 to 100-year life, whatever that may be. It's if you want to exceed that, you then have to address PennDOT's concerns, which then are also White Township's concerns. So the submission for the land development is a maximum of 897. If you get those approvals, if at any time in the future board wants to make it higher, you have to do another traffic study. It may call for a pretty.
But he just said it was always 897.
So that's what.
I understand that we're dealing with numbers that in the 897 numbers projected enrollment, and with the higher PlanCon numbers and calculated numbers based upon state formulas given the number of classes. They're going to come out differently. That doesn't concern me. What concerns me is whether we're getting a traffic plan that is only marginally acceptable.
Yeah.
If the traffic load presented and the solutions being presented for it is just teetering on the edge of being workable, I'm a little concerned not that we're built tying the hands of future boards, but that we're creating a recurring problem for that neighborhood that we should be addressing now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Somebody has some sense.
I mentioned this in the beginning, and I want to mention this again too tonight. We currently have 15 full-size buses going to Ben Franklin. Okay, this new building will have 18. Prior to the reconfiguration, we had 8 buses going to Ben Franklin. We now have 15. We almost doubled the size of the buses. If we were going to make a turning lane, I would think that would be the right time to do it. Of course, we did not have a traffic study. We didn't have to explain why we went from 3 buses going into Eisenhower to 15 buses going into Eisenhower. So, you know what, if we were going to put a traffic lane in there, turning lane, we probably should have done it when we did the reconfiguration. Saying that the turning lane is important, not to put one in, I consider that a crossover run, because anybody, I mean, the people at PennDOT and White Township are not stupid. They work hard, just like this board does. They're intelligent people, just like every other taxpayer. It's going to be congested with this new school. To say otherwise defies sense. But to later have to come back and put in a that makes the school, you know, we've been projecting all along it's a $40 to $50 million school. It starts to add up.
And that's exactly my concern. Let's get it out and it's done. You know, this postponing this till the next time, whatever it is, or it gets back, doesn't make any sense to me. And I would concur with what Mr. Barber said over here. We're right on the edge. It doesn't make any sense to me to go ahead and do that number.
One thing also is when the gymnasium was built, there was a number of issues with the parking on the back. White Township wanted us to redo Clinton Street, Knox Avenue, but they reduced the number of parking spots in the back just so they didn't have to do that. So, I mean, we're not doing anything differently here. We're looking at numbers, and if there is we have no clue what PennDOT's going to say. They may say 950. I mean, 890.
Our ability to redefine enrollment lines and transfer some students to each type. And all of that still makes sense to me. But the one design feature of this building that has nagged at me is not fully satisfying me in envisioning how the building would work is the parent pickup drop-off. It's really problematic. I'm not a traffic engineer, and I don't really think that I can speak to that as intelligently as a traffic engineer could. But I don't want an artificial solution. I want one that really, really works on the ground.
I have to say that I can't support this. I think it's kicking the can down the road, saving money now to just pay for it later. Dale has said this isn't the number that he suggests, that it's not the capacity. I think it's very short-sighted. It limits the boards and what they have to spend in the future if they don't have the funds. It just not make sense. It's very short-sighted. We should be making the best of the best if we're going to do this and make it right. And this is not the way to do it.
I'll move to amend the motion to read that Ms. McKissick Associates be directed to use 1,125 students in New Ben Franklin school capacity on all permit applications, other documents, studies, including but not limited to the PennDOT study related to the project. And for Nice's benefit, here's a copy of it.
Original one, you just want to amend it.
I'm amending it. Motion is to amend the motion to read.
Okay, this is, we're voting on to approve the amendment of 1,125.
Roll call.
So we're voting yes, will be approved 1,125 amendment.
Dr. Gloss. Julius Martin Kukra.
got the motion of 897 students. Yeah.
The only input I have at this moment is trying to get this, is that I found Mr. Barber's comments very compelling. And so I am concerned about that number. On the other hand, any other number someone pulls up, puts on a motion, doesn't give me any stronger comfort. I would like to know more, because I think we all share the point he made, which is however we move forward, we want this to be something everybody's comfortable with. It is accurate, and it does take into account the larger issues of safety. And I don't say that to recruit anyone's support or favor on this board or anywhere else, but I think the number does need to be carefully looked at, so that if it triggers something else, and that's something we have to acknowledge. I think his points were well made, and I think that jump to another artificial number is no less convincing.
The number was not artificial when it came off the plan document.
I don't know that you could defend it sufficiently to the points Mr. Barber made.
If you look at the study statistically on our projected enrollment, there's no indication that our enrollment is going to reach that level in the next 5 years. So we use 1,100 seems artificial. If this motion fails, then when HRG and KCC with PennDOT, then we'll work out some solution that we'll need to get PennDOT solution before. So whether it's 897, 900, whatever, I'm sure PennDOT will come back with a recommendation that we'll need to take into consideration.
I just want to reiterate, my purpose of this motion was a good faith message to PennDOT to address their concerns. We can find out what their concerns are on Thursday, bring it back in June. I don't know what that does to their timeline and White Township Planning Commission's timeline. White Township had 90 days to approve. They were granted an extension to, the architect gave them an extension until their June 13th meeting, because it's past the 90 days. We're just trying to work within their requirements, everyone else's requirements, and try and address their concerns. According to HRG, traffic engineer, 897 does not require a turning lane, 900 does not require a turning lane, 925 probably doesn't require a turning lane, but it gets, we're just confident that PennDOT would feel strongly about it if we were at 925. 950 probably requires a turning lane. That's all it's supposed to be. Those are HRG's numbers. They're not mine. I'm just repeating their.
But I still remain concerned that even if we end up spending more money now, if we're going to do this thing, I want to see it done right.
I don't object to that, Mr. Barber, at all. I mean, I'd like to see, what the architect and PennDOT come back with, and perhaps what we need to do is table this motion until we get more information.
Well, I think we could table. I think we could also take a vote on it. If it is defeated, we are back where we started from, which is that the architect and HRG and PennDOT need to sit down and talk and try to find what is a good solution.